I don't want to glorify being busy and knocking a whole bunch of things off of to-do lists because for me, I don't really love those days where I feel like I'm being really busy and getting a lot of stuff done, but then I look back at the end of the day and I'm like, what did I even do? Kind of feels directionless, you know? I really prefer it when a day ends and I feel satisfied with what I achieved, even if it was just a few things, because to me that's productivity. Not doing a million different little things, but doing the things that I really value and doing them well. So today I wanted to share a little bit about the routine and the system that I use that supports my productivity. And we've even created like a Notion template for you that you can grab and start using right away. It'll help guide you along. The link for that is in the description box below. And a warm thank you to Notion for partnering with us on today's video. We love Notion here at Pickup Limes. Can't wait to chat more about them in a little bit, but for now, let's get started. For me, it's really important that I feel in control of the work, because if I'm not, the work tends to take control of me and it pushes me to any task that seemingly shouts the loudest. So to take control, I've noticed I need to just externalize all the tasks that are floating around in my head. So essentially, I just do a brain dump, and you know that I live for brain dumps. And then once I've written everything down, I then divide the tasks into two separate groups, essential and operational. So the essential tasks are those that I know I need to achieve if I want to reach my goals. And they tend to be the tasks that involve creating something. They usually require quite a bit of intense focus, usually for longer periods of time. So for example, in the work that I do, this could be script writing or filming or even editing. And then there's the operational tasks. These are usually smaller tasks that are a bit quicker to complete, and they just kind of keep things moving forward. You're not necessarily making something new per se, but you're just maintaining the system. So for example, this could be like planning or emailing or bookkeeping. So now that we have kind of a bird's eye view of what needs to be done, we can now start to zero in on the important stuff. What I do next, and this is probably the most important takeaway of this whole video, is that I choose just one essential task every day that I want to finish above all else. So you can circle it, put a star next to it, or write it down on a post-it note, it doesn't matter. The goal then just becomes to do whatever it takes to finish that one thing. I think this is where I've kind of tripped up before, because in the past I would choose 5 or maybe 3 things that I thought were really important that I wanted to get done in a day, but that just made it really easy to dance around the one most important thing and not get that done. And I genuinely feel like that's when we end a day feeling really satisfied, when we've gotten our one most important task complete, you know? But I think another thing that's important for me to remind myself sometimes is to be realistic with that one goal, because I think that's another one of my shortcomings, is sometimes I choose this one goal that's just too big and lofty, and then I beat myself up for not getting it done. So break it down if you have to, and then once I'm clear on what that one task is that I need to get done, then I can plan it into my day. You might have noticed that there's like a 2 to 4 hour window in a day where you tend to be the most productive. For me, it's between like 9 and lunch. For you, it might be a little bit sooner. It could be later in the evening. It doesn't really matter when it is. It's just helpful to be mindful of when that is for you. And because my one task is so important to my progress, I usually try to schedule it during that time of day when I have the most energy and when I feel like I'm the most capable of doing very deep work. Now, once we've planned our one task, we can then start to fill the rest of our day with those operational tasks, which tend to be, again, quicker and easier sometimes to finish. They don't require as much intense focus, but they can feel pretty rewarding as we just check it off the list. I'm always trying to remind myself, though, too, that knocking a whole bunch of stuff off of our to-do list is a really poor substitute for getting that one most important task done. So we all know that interruptions are pretty detrimental to our progress, right? Anytime we're interrupted, we kind of lose momentum, and it takes a lot of mental energy to remember where we were and kind of just to pick things back up again. And so when it comes to being uncompromising about just not wanting to be disturbed, especially during our peak working window, this is something I actually learned from Robin. I have never seen anyone as hyper-focused as him.
What's the number one thing that distracts you the most when you're working?
You.
Nothing. He's rock solid all day.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Robin doesn't get distracted by anything. He has his headphones on and he's just like, you have to like, Robin. Yeah. Rock solid.
I do tend to ask him a lot of different questions. And so what he started to do was just to kind of insulate himself with these noise canceling headphones. And so now when I just kind of impulsively turn to him to ask him questions, usually on the first go, he doesn't even hear me. And that just gives me a moment to stop and reflect. And it also made me realize that most of the interruptions that we see throughout the day, they're not if we're being honest, they're not usually very urgent. It can usually wait. So in these cases, I tend to just write down my questions and ask him all at once when he's out of flow. Or if it's really important, then I'll interrupt him. But otherwise, his headphones indicate to the world that he's on Do Not Disturb mode. You might have heard that if you surround yourself with really great people that they'll raise your potential, and I've always felt like this also holds true for the tools that we use. So for example, by getting a really good quality knife, we find more joy in cooking because it makes our workflow much more efficient. The meal is just ready more effortlessly and more quickly. And another shining example of this is Notion. So Notion is this all-in-one workspace for your tasks, your notes, and your wikis, and it's at the center of our workflow here at Pickup Limes. I use Notion to write out and organize all of my ideas. It's where I plan our YouTube videos, and then our team uses it for various projects and also when developing recipes. We've even made like a whole system in Notion just to review each other's recipes and food photos, and it makes it really clear to see what everyone is working on.
My favorite thing about Notion is that I can see what I'm working on and what Susie's working on, and I mean the roadmap is just really nice to have like a big overview of everything.
For me, definitely the search bar, because I use Notion mostly to write up solutions to coding stuff. I want to say I'm very organized in it, but usually I just tend to forget where I wrote that little thing down, and then I just type a keyword and then that page pops up and I can find the solution really fast.
There's plenty of YouTube videos that kind of go into explaining how to create these really cool looking pages with really advanced features. But if you're just starting out, all you need to know is you just click the / key on your keyboard, and then you're going to be prompted with a lot of different options. With it, you can create headers and numbered lists and bullet points, or even checklists, which are really handy. And then there's my personal favorite, which is the toggle list. This lets you both reveal and hide a whole bunch of information that's underneath it, and in that way it kind of keeps the workspace feeling clean and less cluttered. So to get you started, if you're interested in following kind of a similar productivity system to the one that I use daily, we've created actually a template for you that you can get with the link in the description box below. And this is essentially where you can write down, your daily thoughts and gratitudes, but also where you can brain dump your tasks and then categorize them into essential and operational. And it's also where you can assign each task with a priority level so you know what your one most important task is. I seriously cannot recommend Notion highly enough to use with your whole team, or if you even want to just use it on your own. The individual personal plan is completely free. I'm going to leave the link for you in the description box below if you'd like to learn more. It's inevitable that we sometimes are going to find ourselves having to do tasks that just aren't very rewarding. Maybe it's, an essential task that's just a little bit too daunting, or an operational task that just isn't particularly exciting. And so a little while ago, I learned about something called the Pomodoro technique. And ever since I learned about it, it's actually really shifted my mindset towards working on things that I don't really love working on. So what it is essentially is that for every 25 minutes of active work that you put in, you then grant yourself a 5-minute break afterwards, and then you just repeat the cycle. So in those 20 to 30 minutes or so, if I find that I really impulsively want to just pick up my phone or watch a video, I just try to do my best to power through, knowing that at the end of it, I'm going to have a little break, and it really feels like I've deserved that reward. I just love the structure that the Pomodoro technique gives, especially on those pesky tasks you just really don't feel like doing. Of course, it's also really important to realize that we can't just do our best work all of the time. Sometimes working harder isn't necessarily always the solution. Robin is always reminding me that sometimes I just need to step back. And I'm sure you've experienced this before too, where you actually end up getting a brilliant idea to what you've been working on, but it comes to you when you're taking a shower or when you're cooking dinner. Seriously, I feel like downtime is when the best ideas emerge, especially if we've been really focused intently on something for the last little while. But this is essentially the productivity routine and system I wanted to share with you that I feel really helps me, and I hope that you found something helpful in it as well. If you enjoyed today's video, I welcome you to give it a thumbs up. It always helps to support the channel when you do. And right here, I'm going to link for you our video on building good habits effectively that I think you might enjoy as well. But thanks so much for hanging today. Really appreciate it. Pickup Limes signing off, and we'll see you in the next video.
I don't know, I like that.